Hello friends, JJ Merrill here, and welcome back to yet another installment of my Dota 2 strategy series. This time around we're going to be doing a round 2. Let's look at him again of Dirge, the Undying, the absolute lord of the zombie apocalypse, the master of raising all kinds of undead mayhem, havoc, and being an absolute god in the game of Dota. I love Undying, and I have to say, in this current patch, this is a patch 6.8, Dirge is stronger than ever. What's still odd, though, is that I don't really see many people pick this guy, and I have to admit, part of the reason of my motivation for making a round 2 of this hero is because this guy is just amazing. I think it's really a shame that he's not played more often. So, that being said, we're going to go and get right into it. I'm not going to cover Undying skills and abilities in as close of detail as I did on my existing guide for this hero. And the main reason for that is not much has really changed. The playstyle for Undying has not changed ever since I made that previous video, which I think was even maybe a year ago now. It's been a while. Definitely, it was one of the most enjoyable guides I've ever made, and hope that I can recreate that with this one. Now, that being said, let's go and get right into it. We are in a 2v1 lane versus a Legion Commander. So, with Undying, if you're not familiar with this hero, the general idea is that you are an overwhelming presence in your lane, and a presence in team fights that, first of all, cannot be ignored, and second of all, should not be able to be killed. So, general idea here is that Undying is going to play much more aggressively than you would consider other heroes. And his role is kind of unique in the fact that Undying can very easily be played as just a general support, where you're not going to be last hitting like I am in this lane. Or you can play him the way that, honestly, I think that he is a bit stronger when he's played as an off-lane farming role. He should not be played in a number 1 position for the main reason that his skills don't skill into the late game quite as well, but I believe he should be played as a kind of middle position for reasons like this. Is that whenever you have Undying with a little bit of farm, a little bit of items, and you're actually on par with levels and other heroes in the game, he's just so much of a presence, he cannot be stopped. Now, that being said, I know what you might be thinking, well, this is a 2v1 lane, it's going to be pretty easy. That's true. However, something very important to consider here is that in the current metagame of patch 6.8, it's very common to run 2-1-2 lanes. If you're not familiar with what that means, I'll explain. We have myself and the Rubik versus a solo Legion Commander. Typically, Legion Commander would have a support in the lane with her, but in this case, they have an Enchantress in the jungle. Now, at bot, you have a Pudge Enchantress lane that's pretty awesome. Actually, I don't know what's going on here. The Pudge is invisible. I think this guy's about to die. I'm actually going to watch this for a second. Oh, yeah. I think they're going to kill the Pudge, though. But, you got the Tusk Leshrac down here with the Windrunner Pudge. Pretty unorthodox, but hey, I'll roll with it. And you have the Phoenix versus a Ricky mid. So definitely some really unusual lanes in this game. Now, here's where the fun starts. This is why I want to make another guide over this hero. Is even when things look bad, and they look like they're to the point where you're not going to be able to get out of it. Like, this is actually a pretty scary gank, especially if they were able to hit the Rubik. Thankfully, they went on me instead. But we have a comparable amount of HP. She has an Ursa, she has a Centaur stun. Legion Commander and Enchantress can do quite a bit of damage here. The beauty of this hero is that he's able to turn around situations that you think that you are just going to die in, and completely wipe the other team. Undying is extremely difficult to gank, and generally speaking should not be ganked, especially at this point in the game. You need silences, you need stuns. If he throws down that tombstone and the fight lasts long enough, get a few stacks of decay, things are going to turn really bad for you. So, I'm actually going to go ahead and cut it down to half speed here, and I want to go ahead and demonstrate what's going to happen in this lane. You might also notice, if you've watched my previous videos, that I'm not going my typical skill build. In this particular game, I'm actually opting to skip Soul Rip for more levels in Tombstone. The reason I'm doing this is because I plan to play against this Legion Commander ridiculously aggressive, and I want to take this tower immediately. Notice how we're 3 minutes into the game, this tower's already at half health. I intend to play this game extremely quickly, very aggressively, and I want to end it now. I don't want the Legion Commander or the Ricky to get to the point where they're going to be a threat to me, because these two heroes are actually very good against Undying. Any heroes that can lock Undying down and do a lot of physical damage are definitely Undying's weakness. So, That's going to be our mode of operation. Use our strengths to our advantage. Early game heroes, Undying, Tusk, Leshrac, Phoenix and Rubik can contribute very, very easily as well to large pushes. We want to push down every tower on the map before they even know what hit them. So, let's go and see what happens here. Centaur stun has went down on me, so good use of that. But let's see what happens here. Wait for the stun to wear off. Throw down a tombstone. I'm going to immediately follow this up with a decay. Notice I hit both of the heroes in the AoE of decay. That's very important. You want to make sure that you can get the most out of your abilities. Now, if we take a look, this Enchantress is dead, and the Legion has 3 stacks, 4 stacks of the excuse me, of the Undying zombies on her right now. And that's what makes this hero so strong, is the fact that if people try to run in and gank you, you're just going to throw down your abilities and go, well, that's nice, have some zombies, and it's just amazing. I really cannot just emphasize enough how strong this hero is at counter-ganking. Probably one of the best in the entire game. The ability to kind of... Tombstone is subtle in the way it's not a very subtle ability, but it's subtle in the effect that it can have on a team fight. Every zombie starts getting stacked on top of targets, and the higher level that this ability is, therefore the lower the Deathless health threshold where the zombies get the speed boost and attack bonus, this ability sneaks up on an enemy. It really can. Any kind of setup where you know you're going to be in a prolonged team fight and the enemy, throwing down a tombstone, especially early on in the game, the enemy has to make a decision. Do we actually continue the team fight, or do we choose to fight in the tombstone, or do we choose to try to kill the tombstone? This is why I place so much importance on leveling this ability up as quickly as possible. Now, in the past, I do want to say that I typically prefer a 2 points in Soul Rip build. Reason being is this is kind of a sweet spot for Soul Rip, and Soul Rip is a really, really strong burst heal and burst nuke. I don't know if this ability has actually been changed recently. The only ability that has is Decay. It's now a constant 40 duration at all levels for the Strength Steal. That's huge. In the past, before this patch, it was scaling. It was only 40 seconds at level 4, so it makes Decay even stronger now. But Soul Rip, I typically like to get this to level 2 for the main reason that you're likely to always have 10 units around you. But yeah, check this out. Throw down the tombstone, throw out a Soul Rip just for a little bit of burst damage, and that was probably not the wisest path for her to take, and the Split Earth is going to be able to finish off the Legion Commander. But the level 3 tombstone at this particular point in the game, I feel can actually be much, much stronger than having the 2 points in Soul Rip. Getting this ability to as high of a level as you can, as quickly as you can, especially when you're applying this much pressure on the map, has a huge, huge impact. And I believe this game I actually do choose to get my ulti at level 6. I will often choose to not do that. I will actually wait until I have Tombstone maxed, then pick up Flesh Golem. Flesh Golem is awesome. I'm not discounting the ability at all. Yeah, I missed my ally with Mana Boots. That sucks, but that's okay. Flesh Golem is awesome, but I think that getting 4 points in Tombstone can actually have more value. I feel like early on in the game like this, you're basically forcing the enemy to try to defend their tier 1 towers in situations where it's untenable. They're not going to be able to fight it. Got a battle going on down here, and unfortunately, even if I did TP, it's too far away from the tower. I wouldn't be able to help anyway. Now, one thing I will say, one of Undying's key weaknesses is the fact that by himself, he's not a very strong pusher. At this point in the game, you really don't have enough mana to spam your decay to even hurt creep waves, and none of your other abilities are that good against clearing out waves of creeps. And your right-click damage can be okay, but you have no attack speed. Even though Undying's stat gains are pretty good, particularly gaining 2 intelligence per level as a strength hero is quite nice, 0.8 agility per level causes some issues. In the prior video, I talked a lot about Undying's strengths, and if you want to hear me harp on Undying and how he's the best thing known to mankind, my first video over him, I would highly recommend it, because there's a lot of that. But I actually want to talk a little bit about Undying's weaknesses here, and how I've going to change my itemization to reflect those weaknesses. I actually do not go Bloodstone this game either, and I typically don't, but I'm going to explain my reasoning why, and in the hopes it'll help you in your future games. So, we got a Ricky here. We don't have a Sentry down, but here's kind of what I want. I'm actually going to pause the game now because I want to talk about this. Notice here we have all of our heroes mid. we're making a concerted joint effort to take down this tower, and the general idea here is that we want to spread a wave of destruction across the map. Start at top, go mid, if things go really well at mid, maybe even go to their tier 2, and then go down to their tier 1 at bot, destroy that. Undying is all about creating a swath of pain across the map. Undying works best if you have a team that you can play with and you can communicate clearly with that team. I do really want to start doing some live games lately to kind of illustrate how important using voice commands and communicating with your team is, because the replays really do not do an effective job at conveying that, but it's incredibly critical, especially on heroes like Undying, where you have a tipping point where you are absolutely unstoppable, or you have a point where the enemy team is too far ahead and your abilities then kind of become lackluster. Where they're finally, like, if they're actually able to kill the tombstone, that's when things get tough for Undying, and he's not quite as amazing as he could be. So all that being said, I want to talk about what's happening here. We have a huge amount of AoE teamfight, and we also have a very, very strong pushing lineup with the help of Leshrack's Diabolic Edict. Leshrack is still awesome, by the way. He's still good. Just haven't played him in a long time, but he's still good. So what we're doing here is we're effectively creating this zone, this area where we're going to force them to fight. Once this creep wave hits the tower, ideally I'm going to throw down my tombstone. That's essentially us saying, fight us or we're going to take your tower, or if you do fight us, we're going to kill you anyway. Tower is below half health, our abilities are off cooldown, we're ready to do this. Now, what I do want to point out here is that if you don't do this quickly enough, and like, let's say the Legion Commander actually does get some items, like gets a Blink Dagger or a Shadow Blade, it is able to duel me or other squishy targets very early on in the fight. Undying cannot handle that kind of pressure. He's simply not a hero that's designed to do that. You have extremely low natural armor gain. Your base HP is nice, but you need HP items to cover that gap. That's why I prefer playing Undying as generally like a number 3 farming position, number 3, number 2 farming position. Get some items. You need them as Undying. So let's go and see if this works out. I'm going to go and switch it back and start the game back up. Let's see if we're going to be able to push this tower down. And if a fight breaks out, I will definitely slow things down. We do have TPs coming mid. That's going to be a smoke cloud going down. I'm going to throw down my tombstone immediately. I want to make sure that the reinforcements from the enemy team are going to be blanketed in zombies before they can get too close to us. Throw down another decay. I actually only hit one target, unfortunately. But again, ideally you want to hit as many targets as you can with decay. Get that strength up. There's going to be a duel on our Leshrack. Ideally, I should be using the Soul Rip to heal allies, by the way. That was probably a mistake what I just did there. If I would have, I very likely would have been able to save the Leshrack right there. Soul Rip is generally best used as a heal, but look at all of this AoE damage. Look at this. They're not able to run away because they're covered in zombies. That's going to be a deny in the pudge, but that's okay.
My quiver is empty.
Enchantress trying to run away. I'm going to use an offensive urn charge in the Enchantress just to do a little bit more damage. And Ricky's not able to come back in this fight. Just imagine how much deadlier that would be if we would have had a sentry down too. Ricky would not be able to do anything. And check this out. With 4 stacks of decay, that brought my health from around 800, I think I'm like 870 some odd health, to 1200 health with just 4 stacks of this ability. Undying's buff, having the constant duration of 4 on the strength steal, is awesome. Like that was actually a really, really good buff. You can really feel it. What this means is that you're able to kind of keep the train rolling for longer. Think of it kind of similarly to Slark's Essence Shift, when you have a couple of levels in that, how you're able to keep the bonus agility. Same idea with this. It helps Undying keep that steamroll going. It helps him keep the train chugging along. I do pick up a point in Flesh Golem here. Again, typically I like to max out Tombstone before I do this, however, I think both builds are fine. There's quite a few builds you can go on this hero, but I will say that I do still see some people, when I do see Undying played, they max Decay first. I still don't think this is the best build, and my reasoning behind this is because the mana cost on this does scale, it does kind of hurt. Undying's mana pool is limited, and you will have some trouble with this. That's typically in the past why I built Bloodstone. However, I gotta say that might not be the best choice in all situations. My itemization here is very, very typical for what I might do in an Undying game. I'm typically gonna pick up a Ring of Protection and a Stout Shield, and I'm gonna finish that Ring of Protection into a Basilius in the lane. I'm gonna pick up a Magic Stick, I'm gonna turn that to a Magic Wand, and I'm gonna rush Arcane Boots. I really, really, really like this build for the main reason that rushing the arcane boots like this is going to ensure that the support in your lane, in this case the Rubik, is going to have as much mana as he'll need and as much mana as you'll need to get kills. Tusk is... Oh, God. Okay, so... what happened there was very, very good use of Undying, synergizing Flesh Golem with abilities that have a lot of innate burst damage. If you're able to get off Flesh Golem, and the closer you are to the target, the more damage this does. So at level 1, that's a 20% damage bonus from all damage sources in an AoE. That's a lot. And if someone like Tusk punches someone while they're under the effect of that, that's going to do a lot more damage. That's a 20% damage bonus to his Walrus Punch. And that's what just happened to that poor, I think it was Windrunner. God, that had to hurt. I like that Phoenix ability. Very, very cool. So, rushing these quick items like this, Wand, Arcane Boots, Earnest Shadows, Basilius. Again, the whole idea behind this is we want to, we're turning into a steamroller. And look, they're not even able to fight us at this point. Even though we have the Ricky and the Legion Commander behind us on the rear, it doesn't even matter. If they show themselves, they're not really going to be able to battle us. The presence of the Tombstone helps a lot with this. The Shrek is nice, a lot of AoE from his abilities. The Phoenix ulti going down, that's going to help a lot too. AoE teamfights, or what I like to call saturation combat, is the order of the day when you're playing Undying. Bristleback is another very, very good example of this. But Bristleback and Undying are very good friends if they're on the same team. Horrible enemies if they're on the opposite team, because Bristleback is an extremely hard counter to Undying. So, that being said, you can see I considered for a moment buying the Bloodstone, but then I changed my mind. I want to talk about this. This particular game, there is only one real threat to us. That is physical damage. Legion Commander, Ricky, and the Enchantress. Arguably, the Enchantress is going to be more pure damage, but still, she's going to be right-clicking, especially if she goes an Aghanim Scepter build. The Pudge and the Windrunner, I'm really not particularly worried about, but what it does mean is that I need some more base HP to deal with them. So, what do I need to go for this game? I need to make sure that I can survive a couple of things. Like, this is a good example right here. Note, I'm running back to my tower, I'm dueled. I can't do anything right now. This is where Undying, it really has a lot of trouble. If I'm not able to get off my abilities, I should have decayed there, by the way. I may have lived, just to get the bonus strength. But if Undying cannot survive an initial burst of damage, great examples being Pudge, Dismember, and Legion Commander Duel, Undying loses a lot of effectiveness. What this means is that I need to go for straight health, and I need to go for armor. That's going to be very, very important. Bloodstone is great. I love the item because it's such a good snowball item, and if you can get it, around the 20-minute mark, ideally, you're going to be fine. Gives you a lot of health, a lot of mana. I actually think we have a fight going on here. Let's make sure I don't miss any action. Looks like we're just going to be running back. And by the way, I'm using Earn Shadows to heal our Phoenix pretty much constantly. This is really, really good synergy with this hero, if the Phoenix doesn't have a Earn themselves. But going back to Bloodstone. Oh, I'm actually hooked. We're not going to talk about Bloodstone. Okay, he changed his mind. He's like, no, I don't want to. I hooked a zombie. That was a mistake. Sorry, team. We're not going to fight that. So going back to Bloodstone, while this is such a good snowball item, I feel like you can actually make better choices, especially if the game is going this fast. Bear in mind, we're still only 13 minutes into this game. That's it. Like, that's crazy. Okay, that's going to be a hook on our Rubik here. Again, throwing down my abilities, throwing down a Tombstone in the middle of the team fight. I'm making sure to stay as close as I can to these guys. I want to make sure that my Flesh Golem damage amp can do as much, can be as effective as it possibly can be. Make sure to remember to use Decay when it's off a cooldown. And just, again, don't be afraid to run into the team and really, really make yourself known. Try to help out my Rubik. Use Soul Rip for an effective heal. Soul Rip is really, really good for that. And throw down a Sentry. And that's probably going to be a dead Ricky. Yep, that's going to be a dead Ricky. So using Soul Rip for a heal is typically more effective than using it for a nuke. Main reason being is because this is a magical damage nuke, and you're going to have to factor in magic resist and all that. But the fact that this is just a pure heal on a teammate, and that even at level 2, that's 250 health. At level 4, it's 500 if you have 20 units in the AoE. Note that the Undying zombies do count towards that cap. That's an important consideration to make. I am starting to level up my Decay. The bonus damage and the cooldown from 10 seconds to 4 seconds is actually pretty considerable. So just something to think about. But items that I want to go for here instead of Bloodstone. I actually pick up a Vladimir's Offering. This is not an item that I build often on this hero, but there's a couple reasons that I'm doing this. We have the heroes on our team, we have the ability to do a massive amount of damage very, very quickly through the use of Tusk Punch. The Shrek has just a huge amount of AoE damage, and using Soul Rip, Decay, all that good stuff. If I stack Flesh Golem and Vladimir's Offering, it is really, really, really effective. I'm also building this for the key reason that it also gives armor and an AoE to my team. Our team by themselves, we're not very tanky. We also have pretty low base armor. It looks like, I think this Pudge is dead. Very, very nice. I throw in an Urn Charge just to ensure that he will go down. And there he goes. Good. Urn is so good for that. You got to build Urn in this hero. God, Undying is such a boss. So giving AoE armor to your team can be really effective against lineups like this. Like, say, my base armor, 4, extremely bad. Tusk is only 7, 1 on Phoenix, that's it, 2 on Rubik, and 5 on the Shrek. Teams that have really low base armor like this benefit a lot from items that, like, it might seem insignificant, but giving that 5 bonus armor in an AoE, that's giving your entire team a chainmail. Like, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other stuff. So, giving your entire team a chainmail, 550 gold value, is pretty nice. It's unlikely that I'm going to die in fights at this point in the game unless the perfect storm happens, which is to say, Pudge, Dismember, Ricky, Smokeclad for the Silence, Legion Commander duel. It's unlikely that I'm going to die here. The lifesteal, I will say, is not quite as effective simply because that's not going to apply to most of our team just because we're mostly ranged. I throw down a Tombstone here mainly just for kind of this, oh my god, look at that damage. Wow, 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 wow. I throw down a Tombstone here mainly just kind of as a zoning thing. I don't want them to keep going on my team there. Now, one thing you got to be careful of with this is we're kind of overextending a bit. Like, fighting right here is actually not wise. I went a little bit too aggressive. The Tombstone back here is not going to be able to help us if we're fighting over here. And if someone does get hooked by that Pudge, like right there, that fight is over for us. Even though this game does look extremely one-sided at this point, and in all fairness, they are in a lot of trouble, they can still win this game. Like, they really can. It's so quick to turn this stuff around. And I feel like players can really, really easily get too comfortable with their position in the game and, start screwing around a little bit too much. I didn't know the Catapult had a punch animation too. That's actually pretty awesome. So, where do we go from here? Again, our main weakness is armor, so I feel like my health is in a pretty good spot, but I don't want to get right-click down. If we look at the Ricky, he still has practically nothing, but at some point he will have a defusal. The Legion Commander can still do a very, very respectable amount of right-click damage, and lockdown too, for that matter, even without having a lot of damage items at this point in the game. So, going for something like a Shiva's Guard, and I believe I do go for that item this game. Going for a Shiva's Guard, excuse me, can really, really plug the holes an Undying has. And again, look at them. Like, they want to go for me. They can kill me by themselves. I'm not invincible. I'm not 100% unstoppable at this point in the game. Running back up here, and we might, that might be a fight. That might be it. I'm going to throw down my Tombstone immediately. Don't hesitate if you know a fight's about to break out like this. Notice I'm being dueled by the Legion Commander, but I was able to get off my abilities, my Tombstone and my Flesh Golem, namely. Don't be afraid to throw this stuff down. The moment that the Phoenix got hit by the Windrunner Shackle, I knew there was a fight that was about to break out. I didn't want to hesitate and risk being caught in Ricky's Smoke Cloud, followed up by Legion Commander's duel, which means I wouldn't be able to do anything that fight. That fight could have went very, 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 very differently for us if I wasn't able to get these two abilities off. So, good for us. Nobody died as well. That's always nice. Phoenix ulti was used, so got him back up to full, so that's nice. And with the help of, especially of Leshrac here, we're going to be able to threaten their racks. So again, fast Dota, Blitz Dota, the Undying Blitzkrieg Dota is what this is all about. Shiva's Guard is close to finish here. We can take a quick minute, look at some other items that I might consider too. Actually, now they're all back up. I believe they're probably going to want to fight this.
Looking good for the Dyer's mid-rags.
Pudge calls GG in this, fair enough. And we have both their tier 2s down. I think we're actually safe to keep going here and fight. I'm trying to goad out a fight if I can, so I'm shackled. Let's see what happens here. Good lift by the Rubik. That's going to buy me a little bit more time to make sure I can get my abilities off. Poor Ricky. Poor Ricky. Wow. Another key thing, too, that's easy for... they're trying to kill my tombstone down here. And, let's see. I'm not sure if they're actually able to do it. They are able to kill my tombstone, but even if your tombstone does die, note that they spent so much time doing that now we're just able to walk up and kill them. So that is definitely going to be game here. I know that was a very, very quick one. I just wanted to do a quick recap of a hero that I am very, 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 very passionate about, and one of the main reasons why I continue to play this game is heroes like this. The ability to just apply such enormous amounts of pressure across the map, and the team fighting, man, like it's so good, so incredibly good. So what are some other things that we could have done this game? Again, I still feel like armor was our key thing this game. The more armor I have, especially against our heroes, the better off I'm going to be. However, that being said, too, just having raw HP is also very important for the main reasons for Pudge, Dismember... I hate life. Yes, Undying. I know how you feel. Pudge, Dismember, and Legion Duel, these are abilities that really lend themselves well to building things like Lincoln Sphere. I think that Lincoln Sphere would have been an excellent choice this game. Being able to block Pudge, Dismember, Enchantress, Slow, Legion Duel, Shackle, stuff like that is very, very, very good. If I'm able to block those abilities, I'm going to have a much more effectiveness in the fight. Not only that, too, but if I'm able to have like that base mana regen, I don't have to worry about going an item like a Bloodstone. That's another thing I want to emphasize, too, is that if you do pick up an item like a Shiva's Guard, Lincoln Sphere, Necronomicon is also excellent, too, in pushing lineups. You don't have to go Bloodstone. You really don't. Its position is already satisfied by having these other items. Blow Shiva's Guard just for fun. And we're going to finish off the Ancient here, and that is going to be game. So, a quickie here. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, don't kill me. I think I live here. Yeah. And that's going to be a deny anyway. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I do encourage to check out my first Undying video if you haven't watched that. The information in it is still pretty relevant. Not much has really changed with this hero. And if you have not played this guy, you got to give him a try. In today's game, in patch 6.8, yeah, 6.80, typical lane setups are 2-1-2. You're not going to have to worry about being hit by a tri-lane and having your lane ruined by that. Play Undying. He is super, super strong right now. You're welcome, Undying. I love you too. So take a look at the post-game screen here. This was a 22-minute game. This is what Undying is all about. If you're going to play the hero, play with a good group of people that you know can, take direction and they understand how these heroes should be played. All 5 of our heroes worked really, really well together this game in the fact that we want to establish our presence quickly, do it across the map, kill their towers, kill their base in the game. Thank you guys for watching. Any questions, comments, post them. I love hearing from you, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.